Coming up tonight, government makes its case to extend the state of emergency until the end of September. Meanwhile, the opposition leader responds to criticism that he's been pandering during the pandemic. And a homeless mother pleads for help.
Our News is brought to you by ALRICH.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert MINNIS made a case for the extension of the COVID-19 emergency orders as he claimed anyone who suggests that the Bahamas isn't facing an emergency is delusional. This, as he also said, had the government implemented a travel ban on Bahamians when the economy reopened, the Bahamas would be thriving right now. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Prime Minister made the comments as he led debate on the resolution to extend the state of emergency until the end of September. He insisted the situation would have been a much different one had Bahamians not flocked to Florida, which has quickly become a COVID-19 hotspot.
Had we made the firm decision to ensure and stop or prevent Bahamians from traveling, we would have been in a better position. But to make such decision would have been considered unconstitutional. I would have been accused, and the government would have been accused of being the most dictatorial government. We would have been accused, and I would have been accused of an abuse of power. But power is only abused when used unnecessarily.
Instead, he said the country continues to face one of the worst emergencies in modern times. Since the borders reopened on July 1st, the Bahamas has seen an explosion of COVID-19 cases. Between July 8th and July 22nd, the country reported 115 cases.
Out of just 56 individuals who were infected, and this can go up, analysis is ongoing, 40% were due to travel, Bahamians traveling to the various hotspots.
He added that ahead of the most recent ban on commercial flights, several hotels were doing well and would still be doing well now. However, MINNIS said Bahamians would have lambasted the government if it had implemented restricted travel measures on locals.
We as a government, we refused, though we thought about it, we refused to make that decision to place a travel embargo on Bahamians. We would have been a successful nation, but we would have been a destroyed people. We could not. We were afraid to make that decision.
The BM said this demonstrates that governments will be placed in situations where it will have to make discriminatory or unconstitutional decisions against their people in the advancement of their nation. When asked to clarify what he meant by that, MINNIS added that the government has not made any decision that is unconstitutional, adding that in the future governments may be faced with such decisions. Meantime, Dr. MINNIS insisted the COVID-19 pandemic has caused the worst emergency in modern times. The Prime Minister suggests that a state of emergency could exist until a vaccine for COVID-19 is produced.
This is, Mr. Speaker, this is truly an emergency. And anyone who suggests otherwise is delusional. The emergency has lasted months. It will last many more months.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed a record 55 additional confirmed cases of COVID-19. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 274. There have been 119 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in New Providence, a whopping 120 confirmed cases in Grand Bahama, 21 confirmed cases in Bimini, 4 confirmed cases in the Berry Islands, 4 confirmed cases in Cat Key, 2 confirmed cases in Cat Island, 3 confirmed cases in Moores Island, and 1 case in Guana Key. This number is reflected in Moores Island on the dashboard. Opposition leader Philip Davis hitting back at the Prime Minister, who today accused Davis of pandering repeatedly during the pandemic. MINNIS also invited Davis to an emergency cabinet meeting with health officials. However, Davis declined after MINNIS followed up that invitation with withering criticism of the PLP leader. Berthany McDermott reports.
Minutes after he called for unity and invited opposition leader Philip Davis to attend an emergency cabinet meeting this evening to hear a presentation by health officials on COVID-19, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert MINNIS went on the attack, accusing Davis of repeatedly pandering during the pandemic. MINNIS also asserted Davis would have been a terrible disaster. Well, this morning, Davis hit back.
We are in this position we are in today because of his incompetence. If he's so confident and so sure about what he's doing, why wouldn't he just stay behind and answer questions from yourselves, as I would answer from you?
MINNIS didn't stop there. He further charged that many Bahamians informed him that they're glad Davis is not in charge during this pandemic. To that, Davis didn't hold back, charging that every step MINNIS made so far has resulted in chaos, confusion, and anger. According to the opposition leader, a Davis-led government would have undoubtedly handled this crisis much better.
I'm confident the Bahamian people, by and large, are not satisfied in the manner in which he handled this. Well, they handled this much better. I'm not questioning that at all. But this is in his hands. And as he said yesterday, the Bahamian people one day will be called upon to see how he handled this when we go to the ballot box.
Davis insisted that from the onset of the pandemic, the PLP repeatedly offered recommendations on the way forward, including widespread testing and a more careful approach to reopening the borders, but they were never acknowledged. The government has now extended the state of emergency to September 30th. Davis said that is too long.
Too long. There's no reason. I'm not aware of any particular reason for us to be locked down until the 30th of September. Locked down, or why the proclamation of emergency ought to remain that long. All that is telling me is that they're still wondering, and they're still wobbling. They still don't understand what to do.
Shocking is how the opposition leader described that invitation from the Prime Minister to join him and cabinet to hear from health officials. According to Davis, this invitation's coming a little late in the game.
I'm seriously curious about what they could tell me that aligns with the measures that he is now implementing.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Bahamas Air employees and cabinet ministers could see a portion of their salaries deferred amid the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister told Parliament that the government will have to make a decision on whether to continue paying Bahamas Air workers their full salaries as the national airline continues to operate on a reduced schedule.
At some point in time, we would have to make a decision whether, I'm not saying we're doing that now, but at some point in time, we have to make a decision whether Bahamas Air staff who are sitting there, the aircrafts that are sitting there, should we pay them a percentage of their pay, let's say 70%, and defer the other 30 until things have changed.
The remaining 30% of those salaries would be deferred until the economy rebounds. He noted it is something the government would have to seriously think about. MINNIS said he informed Cabinet that if such a decision is made, they should also be prepared for their salaries to be impacted.
Should we make such a decision in terms of deferring a percentage of individuals' salary, that they are all prepared to defer a portion of theirs also in the interest of the country.
Exuma's and Raglan Island MP Chester Cooper calling it distasteful that the Prime Minister would use his time speaking in Parliament this morning to lambast the opposition. Cooper said the time would have been better spent speaking to the pertinent issue at hand. Cal Joaquin reports.
72 hours, you could make a quick trip, could come back, you don't have to have an exam. We talk about those failures. And then you blame the Bahamian people.
Just moments after the Prime Minister's ridicule of the opposition and its criticism of the government's handling of the pandemic, Exuma's and Raglan Island MP Chester Cooper hit back at MINNIS for using a time when the nation wanted to hear the next steps from the Prime Minister to instead strike political jabs.
The demands are great. We must support BPL. We must support Bahamas Air. We must continue to support the unemployment initiative programs at NIB. That's what we want to hear about. And where's your plan for the new normal? Are we going to live in emergency orders indefinitely?
Both the Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism have said the resurgence was due to Bahamians traveling back and forth from the United States, in particular Florida. But Cooper also brought up this digital flyer of a Bahamas Air campaign that has since been suspended, encouraging Bahamians to fly between Freeport and Fort Lauderdale, and even Marsh Harbor and West Palm Beach.
Our national airline did promotions encouraging Bahamians to travel to Florida at reduced prices, specials. And then you come and you talk about how Bahamians may have irresponsibly traveled to hotspots.
The PLP deputy stressed concerns shared by several Family Island residents about their island's capacity to handle cases, particularly Ragged Island, where basic facilities like the island's clinic, police station, and administrator's office have been left damaged since Hurricane Irma nearly 3 years ago.
You have an obligation. You have a responsibility to the Bahamian people in this no time for throwing jazz. So stop the jazz and start the plants. That's what the Bahamian people require of you.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Elizabeth Member of Parliament Dr. DWAYNE saying Bahamians can't take all the blame for the resurgence of COVID-19 cases in the Bahamas. With over 100 cases confirmed since the country's borders reopened on July 1st, government has said it's been the back and forth travel to hotspots by Bahamians that has caused the spike. However, the former Minister of Health said everyone has been making mistakes.
But we have to acknowledge that it's not just the people of the Bahamas that's making mistakes. It's not just the people who are not adhering to guidelines. We are all making mistakes. And I think as we move forward, let us look at this thing the way the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, looks at issues in a non-accusatory fashion. When we look at things, let us see how we can do things better. We don't need to point fingers.
REV is advising its customers in Western New Providence of a major fiber break, which has caused a complete disruption in all REV services for approximately 4,000 customers. A fiber line in the Carmichael Road area has sustained major damage due to an unknown large vehicle accidentally hooking the aerial case on the cable layout. The accident took place at around 2 o'clock today. Impacted REV services include 35 residential nodes, 1 Alive tower, and several fiber customers. The affected areas include, but are not limited to, Carmichael Road, Coral Harbor, South Ocean, and Lyford Key. The technical team has already completed the initial stages of the repair process, but officials say the full restoration of services will take some time. They added the REV team is working diligently to restore services as soon as possible. Still to come on Our News, public reaction to the extended emergency period. Plus, BUSAWU threatening legal action. Stay tuned. Some residents on New Providence are open to a 2-week lockdown, similar to the one on Grand Bahama. They say everyone's health is a priority right now.
I think lockdown is essential.
With Grand Bahama starting a 2-week lockdown and the emergency powers extended until the end of September, some residents, like ALRICH CULMER, say they welcome a lockdown in the capital.
Everybody wants to protect themselves. And the way it's going, I think that will be the best thing. A lockdown is the best thing to do right now.
Since March, government has relied on emergency powers to introduce measures restricting movement in order to slow the spread of the virus. Those measures have been criticized as being more burdensome on the poor. However, with a recent spike in cases, many Bahamians we interviewed support more restrictions if need be.
I think it's the Prime Minister right now. He just doing the best for the country right now. you know, in case of the lockdown and all that, because I have a feeling he might have to do another curfew again.
I think the people need to be healthy.
If we do spike, I think we should do another lockdown. Because as a serious matter, you see, like in the USA, they rampant.
I don't think we're at the point where we need to shut the island down, but if the folks who want to do what they're supposed to do, then the government have to take the stance and do what needed to protect all of us.
The country hadn't recorded a case of COVID-19 in 18 days before cases began to spike in Grand Bahama and emerge in New Providence and other family islands. The increase has been widely attributed to the opening of the country's borders. Many residents say they support the borders staying closed, but how will Bahamians make a living with the tourism industry at a standstill?
We should do little events and whatever and just stay 6 feet, because that's all we do over here. Party and do little activities, go outside, do little beaches activities. That's how people is making their money in the Bahamas.
The Bahamas Utilities, Services and Allied Workers Union threatening legal action against the Department of Labor. Union President DWAYNE Woods says the results from the union's election were not certified.
Never mind the obvious of the coalition team, the Minister of Labor, Representative Acting Director John Pinder, who was responsible for conducting and supervising the election, had no protests, questions, or queries before or during the process, but now chose to stunt the progress of the union by ignorantly interfering with progress.
The union is being represented by attorney Wayne Monroe, QC. Woods referred to a letter dated July 13 from Acting Labor Director John Pinder, which outlines 2 reasons for his decision. However, the union contends that the reasons given are frivolous and vexatious.
It is patently clear that the Acting Director of Labor is attempting to unjustly seize carriage single-handedly of the union's electoral process, which speaks volume as to the union counter-stamping the back of the ballot initially, along with the Department of Labor.
Pinder said he is abiding by the Industrial Relations Act, adding that it was BUSAWU members who wrote to the Department of Labor complaining about the process. According to Pinder, the Labor Department does not care who wins the union election. Still to come, a homeless and jobless mother's cry for help. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A homeless mother of 2 is pleading for help. The 47-year-old said she's looking for work, but it is not easy during the pandemic. Jillian Gray reports.
Helpless is how Crystal Fox described her situation. She said even before the pandemic, things were rough, and now she's homeless.
I'm at the point where I'm not even having work yet. God knows how my child eats every day. So it's very frustrating as a mother to have a 15-year-old with me. It's not right. So I'm begging for help.
Fox, who suffers from sickle cell, was moved to tears as she shared her dire situation. For months, she and her daughter have bounced from place to place, finding shelter wherever they can. She said family could not help them, and social services was only able to house her for 4 days. Though distraught, she says she knows she is not the only one going through a hard time, as many are homeless after losing their jobs during the pandemic.
I couldn't keep it in anymore. I have to speak out, not for only me one, but other mothers that are shelterless But our country really need to do better. Our government needs to really build like shelter homes for people.
Fox and her daughter carry around 2 small bags with their necessities. She described the situation for her daughter as depressing. The high school student's work was affected during the pandemic, and now her only outlet is to talk to her peers.
The two of us are emotional right now. She's like a illustration with encouragement, but she don't like to see me cry, so she'll be on her phone talking to her friends. That will probably ease it up a little bit. But she right now, she's traumatized. She's feeling it also.
Though the pandemic has made the job hunt difficult for Fox, who hasn't worked since September, she said her top priority is trying to find work so that she can sustain her family.
I'm 47, going to 50, don't have a property, don't have a home. And one of my dreams is to have a home so I can have my children to have a stable life.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Over the next 3 months, Bahamas is sending 1 winner per month and a guest on a trip to a family island. The summer staycation promotion runs from July through the end of October. REV'S Senior Public Relations Coordinator Davriel Burrows tells us more.
We also have some great other prizes, including every other week. We're going to have an at-home party kit, because right now this isn't the time to be socializing too much. So we have a kit for you and your family where, you're going to be able to eat some really good food, you get some REV branded trinkets, watch your favorite shows, watch your favorite movies together, and make it a little fun night in. And then also every week, we have folks who are going to be winning a device. So it's a lot of fun prizes for this campaign.
Burrows shared how customers can upgrade their service for a chance to win one of the top prizes.
You have to either sign up for or upgrade to Trio. So if you're single or a double play customer, you can upgrade to having all 3 services, which is the best deal anyway. And then you also have to sign up for RevGo Play and RevGo Voice, which are our free apps that come with Trio, and use them. And that's it.
Still to come, 2 Bahamian professional athletes back in action. Stay tuned.
Versus the Atlanta Braves. Jazz in the DH spot finished 0 for 2 on the evening.
Two of the country's professional athletes in action overnight in baseball and basketball. Marcellus Hall tells us more.
Well, the state of Florida has not been the best place to be for Bahamians over the last couple of weeks. That changed a bit last night. We had 2 Bahamian professional athletes in action. First was Buddy Hield playing with the Sacramento Kings in their preseason game as they played the Miami Heat. The other, Jazz Chisholm, trying to make an impression as the Marlins played the Braves. Jazz hoping to make that 30-man roster. Grand Bahamian native Buddy Hield on the floor last night playing in the preseason game against the Miami Heat. Buddy 24 minutes on the floor. He would finish with 19 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. Kings come up just short, 104-98, the final score against the Miami Heat. Meanwhile, Buddy would make 8 of his 16 shots, including 3 3-pointers. Looks pretty solid heading into the season opener. Meanwhile, Jazz Chisholm seeing some action with the Miami Marlins last night versus the Atlanta Braves. Jazz in the DH spot finished 0 for 2 on the evening with a strikeout and a groundout. Marlins pick up the win in their final preseason game. Jazz does not make the final 30-man roster, but will remain with the squad throughout the course of the season. So while Jazz did not make the final 30-man roster, as opening day comes tonight in Major League Baseball, he is available for call-up should the season progress and the Marlins need his services. Meanwhile, Buddy Hield looks to be in good shape as the season comes closer to restart at the end of this month. Reporting for our news, I'm Marcellus Hall.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. To catch our news on the go, download the Rev Go Play app. On behalf of the entire news team, I'm Jared Higgs. Stay with us on The Record with Jerome Sawyer. Up next.